Welcome, welcome. Have you ever wondered if journaling is really worth it? Does your journal make you calm, help you communicate better, and spark your creative juices when you read it? Does it make you smile? What? You don't have a journal? Oh no! Guess what? Our guest today is going to help you. If you want to journal and you have no idea what to journal about, she's going to be giving us some tips and some training, and I think some prompts and possibly some eyes. I would love to introduce you to my guest, who's going to introduce herself a bit more. My guest is Christy Bridges. Please welcome and tell the people who are listening a little bit more about you.
Yes, thank you so much. Oh, Cindy Lou, I enjoyed this assignment. You were one of the first of three people to ask me about journaling last month. So I sat down on Christmas Eve with some eggnog and a stack of old journals, and I had fun. So today I want to help your listeners, be bold you, kind of understand how you can make a journal fun. So often we use journals for venting or making lists of things, and they're not anything we want to go back and read again, right? What is your favorite thing that you've discovered in an old journal? Has there ever been a time when you've gone back and read something and you went, I loved that?
It wouldn't be stuff that I've written, but stuff that my mom's written. My mom is an avid journaler. So I actually really look forward to the day I would go back and read some things and I don't remember that. Did that really happen? Are you sure about that? But I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to the day that we'll have that pile of journals and she's no longer around. She's still here, so I don't have them yet. But one day I'm sure those pile of journals will become ours to peruse through. Yeah.
That is so cool because that's actually one of the things that I want to talk about, which I know is a little intimidating to some people, but it doesn't have to be. Journals can be such a legacy that you leave behind. So today I'm going to talk about googly eyes. Okay, but not yet. So, oh, come on, do it with me. Anyway, we vent in our journals. We, pour out the things that we're not quite ready to say yet. But honestly, it's not hard at all for us to remember hard times or painful moments. I'm 49 now, and I still remember the day that I was 23 and I was walking the track around Lake Hollingsworth in Central Florida. Somebody drove by and yelled, "You're fat." Well, geez, dude, that's why I'm walking. So I still would remember that. But if it weren't for my journals, I'd forget the good people, the really neat moments like the googly eye guy. I'm going to read you a journal entry. March
After.
3rd, 2000.
No,
Yeah.
you're not going to do
March.
it quite yet. Hold on
Yes.
1 minute.
Okay, yes. No, please.
There may be people watching who are listening who have
Uh-huh.
never met you and don't know like who you are, where you're from, and they may not even know me. So we should probably do that, and then we can go back to googly eyes.
I just assume everybody knows me. Isn't that terrible? Yes, you're exactly right. So, what would you like to know about me?
Where do you live?
Sure. So, I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Where did we meet?
We met actually online through a wonderful friend named Kim White, who was doing our entrepreneur group. And then we got to meet in person in Texas. But one of these days, we will meet in New Zealand when I come there.
Which is where I live. So my name is Cindy Lou. I'm the founder of Be Bold You. I wrote a couple of chapters in one of Christy's books, which I didn't bring in here. I should have had it in here. Option Ocean. She probably has one somewhere there. And so when I started this membership, which we'll talk about more at the end, about Be Bold You and discovering yourself, one of the first things that you want to do is figure out where you're at now. And one of the best ways to do that is through journaling. So this is not going to be the normal back and forth where I do a full interview. I'm going to hand it over to Christy now, and she's going to go back into her story of googly eyes and take us on down the journey and do some training for us on prompts and things like that. So I will be back. I'm going to solo her up so that she can be there and help you all with what you need. And then Christy, when you need me again, ask me, or if there's something that I'm just like, I'm going to talk about it, I'm just going to jump on back in and you'll see my face pop up and you'll know I have a question.
All right. I love that about you.
Have
Cindy
fun.
Lou, right? Cindy Lou is the one who keeps me on track, and I appreciate that. Making things happen in order, because, being bold is a confidence thing, but it really helps to be organized so that you can be confident, be bold. Thank you. So I actually am the owner of One Moment Wiser, and I've written a couple of books, well, several books, but a couple of devotional books in a series of 31-day devotionals. The first was Wisdom Better Than Wishing, and the second was the one that Cindy Lou was part of called Option Ocean, Navigating the Sea of Possibility. And I have a copy around here somewhere. I'll bring it out later. But working with Cindy Lou, it was so fun because we have such a common spirit. And I've been really enjoying the people that you've brought on to your Be Bold You series. Everybody that I've watched on your Be Bold You page has had, not just great personalities, but real truth and useful things to share. So I love that. So back to googly eyes. The idea is that your journal shouldn't just be a place for, your sorrows. Your journal should be a place that keeps you creative and a place that holds some good memories, so that if you happen to pass on those journals like Cindy Lou's mom is going to one day, the people who read them get a full picture of the kind of person you were. Now, a little more private than you probably want to share today while you're still around, but that's okay. So March 3rd, 2018, I'll read you this journal entry. I was in Walmart with Laura, and the 60-ish black man said, "Is that red hair your natural color?" "On the inside," I replied. "Well, I'd like to give you something," he said, "because it's so pretty on you." He handed me a little plastic ring with a set of eyes whose pupils roll around in their sockets. And as I put it on, he said with a playful smile, "The googly eyes of God are upon you." I laughed the rest of the night over that. But pretty soon I had forgotten that. So reading it again on Christmas Eve just gave me a whole new grin. When you say journal, some people imagine some misty-eyed, sap-filling page after page of unrequited love, longing, and woe. Well, a journal is a great place to work out those thoughts and avoid embarrassing ourselves. A great place to avoid having to speak your mind every time someone bugs you, having a place to fuss and pray privately. It saved my marriage more than once. But when I was a newlywed, I found myself journaling just when I was mad or sad. And one day I read what I'd written and I thought, ugh, if anybody reads this after I'm dead, they're going to think that girl was a grouch. So I began intentionally logging stories like googly eyes, or like this one Saturday morning when my husband and I were joking around. So 11/2/2012. Richard said he was going to throw me out with the trash. "Who would feed you?" I asked. "If I turn into compost, will you eat what grows from my toes?" He promised he'd bring me in and dust me off before it got that far. Well, I'd love to tell you that that's all I put in my trusty journal. That with the help of this trusty journal, I say all the right things to my husband, plan my year to the minute, meet my goals, and spend at least an hour in deep prayer and stay gleeful all the time. I'd love to tell you that, but in my 1993 journal, I vowed not to lie anymore. Journaling is my secret, though, to not acting like a maniac around my husband, ending each day and year with a smile and gratitude, and being kind to myself, staying on track and connecting with God. So I'm going to give you some opportunities during our talk today, and here's one of them. If you're watching or listening, even if it's a replay, I'd like to know whether you use your journal for A, venting, B, prayer, C, gratitude, D, goal setting, or E, getting creative. So I know that's a lot. I'm going to put that in the comments here. And I really do want to hear from you, whether you're watching right now or if you're catching this on replay. Oh, and I see a couple people are watching right now. Oh, hi, Uncle Paul. Hi, Cassandra. Ah, I love you guys. So tell us, what do you use your journal for? Venting, prayer, gratitude, goal setting, or getting creative? I'll give you a minute. Now, you know, if you're not doing any of those things in these thirsty pages, you're missing out. You don't have to write every day. I go for weeks without writing in my journal sometimes because I'm too busy doing other things. But your journal is the Swiss Army knife for your life. Cindy Lou uses it for gratitude, goal setting, and getting creative. Rock on, Cindy Lou.
I love that Swiss Army knife for your life. How fun is that? So tell me more about that.
Sure. Well, there are so many things that you can get from journaling. First of all, if anybody is watching going, I don't have time for one more thing, well, the easiest tool you can use from your journal is that pick me up. Just a 5-minute exercise, even less if you write fast. And when I was going through a really low time, this 5-minute exercise pulled me out of a funk completely. And it's kept me moving forward, even on the days when I just don't want to do any work. So when I'm tired, I get stressed. I feel like I haven't done enough. I'll never accomplish my dreams. I'm a waste of humanity. I know this isn't true, but it's how I feel. And so it's hard to settle down and rest when I see time vanishing before my eyes. So the 5-minute trick that I use is at the end of a day, I'll write one thing that I'm grateful for and one thing I'm proud of myself for having done. Just one little accomplishment. Doesn't matter if I reposted an ad or if I wrote an entire presentation. I know that at the end of the day, I'm going to want to write that one thing. And so even on lazy days, I make sure to do something. That keeps my inner bully from being able to beat me up because I have a track record of accomplishments, big and small. And I have a whole journal full of things I'm grateful for. I know a lady who her husband passed away and she was alone. And she was in a funk for a while with no feeling of purpose. And she started writing that one thing a day that she was grateful for. And she is such a joy to be around. It's only been a few months, but her attitude is so different. Everybody wants to be near her.
Gratitude is
Just,
amazing.
it really is. Yep, Cassandra uses her journal for all of the above. And you know, I can see it, girl, because you are productive. Oh my goodness. So in the comments, we've got some of the things that we use journaling for. I know one of the major things is quieting the chaos. You may have heard about how handwriting, now, you know, I journal voice to text and by hand and on my computer, but there's something about handwriting that helps relieve stress. And so if you can't sleep, you can't think straight, you can't shut off your brain, then you can journal to quiet that chaos. It's ridiculous how a situation at work or a tiff for the friend will just send these emotional racquetballs pinging against your skulls. So, Cindy Lou, when you are going through a stressful time and your brain just keeps circling around it, what do you do?
When I'm going through a stressful time and my brain keeps circling around it, that is exactly the time that I will write down what is it I'm feeling, what is it that I am going through. And what I'm looking for is, where did I start thinking the way that I'm thinking now? Because
Ooh.
normally when I'm in that stressful cycle, there's some belief that's got me spinning. And I will literally say, why am I feeling this way? And then I'll journal about, like, why am I feeling this way? And stuff will come out, whether I'm journaling verbally or journaling with writing. It will come out, and all of a sudden I'll go, I didn't know I felt that way. I didn't know I believed that. And it gives me that opportunity to shift a belief. Because if
Mm,
you don't know what the belief is, you can't shift it.
that's right. And sometimes it's hard to recognize until we force those chaotic thoughts to funnel one at a time out of our pen, make them go single file out the door, basically. So, a couple of years ago, my closest friend and I went through a misunderstanding. She'd moved away, and our communication had kind of devolved to where we were just sending a couple of texts here and there. And so we had a misunderstanding, which you can do by text easily. And then we just stopped communicating altogether. And in the silence, I was having constant arguments inside my head, justifying myself to myself. When I would try to think of anything else, these emotional half sentences would just zing behind the scenes like a swarm of oncoming hornets, and it was exhausting. So I forced those words one at a time onto a piece of paper. It took several pages. You know, depending on what you're saying, you might want to burn the pages when you're done, but making them move out that way slows them down and puts you back in control. So, a couple of things I want to say about that. We can be dramatic on those pages, but we want to tell the truth. So refuse to lie. If you go with she always and he never and I wish they would just drop dead, well that's not productive. I know a man who found his wife's journal, and the things she said about him were so dehumanizing that they're divorced now. But you can be honest. You might say she sounded so smug when she said that, I wanted to smack her. Or I feel like the dirty sock fairy. He throws them down and I whisk them away. Own your feelings and fears in the process. I'm worried, frustrated, mad, scared because I don't want to end up where it feels like we're heading. And if you're really freaked out, I love what you guys were talking about, finding where that unbelief is coming. Cassandra, you're exactly right. Finding where, um, you know, the fear is, where the unbelief is, where you got derailed. But you can play in order to find that. Sometimes we have to play what's the worst that can happen. So maybe the bills are more than your paycheck. We'll write about the potential catastrophe you're imagining and then ask, well, if that happened, then what would I do? Pray and do one thing that you can log as your daily accomplishment. You have power in those situations. So we're just getting to the good stuff. Before we continue, I want to tell you that today we want to help you have that power. So Cindy Lou has published actually 3 journals,
Yep,
and I've written a PDF
one of
with
them.
some exercises you can use those journaling techniques about in her journal, using my PDF to guide you. So you have to buy her journal, but the PDF is free. And you have one that's joy and one, what would tell me the titles of your journals?
The joy of the Lord is my strength, and then the other
Mm-hmm.
one is love is. And I'm basically going through the 9 fruits of the Spirit for this first bunch of journals. The first journal that I put out, which is a pictorial, some of my photography in there and some great things, is all about how to stand firm, how to stand strong. And yeah, it just walks you through some scriptures. I don't remember where they are.
No worries. So that's all right because we can get a link out. But in the PDF that we're attaching to this discussion, there's a section and it's entitled Journal to Quell Anxiety. So one of the steps in that section that you can use in one of Cindy Lou's journals is you need to state, I have experienced tough times in the past and I am different today because of this. So in the comments, even if you're replaying this episode, write away that you're different today than you were the last time you went through a trial in your life. Are you more resilient? Are you stronger? Are you more sensitive, more forgiving, more educated, or more experienced? Well, how are you different? We like to celebrate that with you.
Yeah, I'm definitely more self-aware than I ever was. When I started using the journal in a specific way, that was what changed it. It was like, oh. And I know everybody uses journals different. And that was one reason I wanted to have you come on, was to talk about the different ways you can use it. Because if somebody's new to journaling, or if they've done journaling for a while and it's just feeling old, then they can shift it and journal a different way.
That's right. It's about taking ownership of your life. A journal is the great place to begin. And we've been going over, the basic things that you would use a journal for and ways to shift. If you've gotten yourself into a rut, ways to shift that use so that you're really finding the things out about yourself that give you power and finding, pulling out those little pieces that make you feel powerless, right? So instead of the rants that are untruthful, saying what the real truth is. Cindy Lou, you've talked about, figuring out where mentally you've got fear, you've got unbelief, and so that you can reroute that. And I bet you use words of affirmation in your journal too, or scriptures that remind you that God is our source and the other people in our lives are not, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In the book, the journals that I've written, I've taken quotes of the day. So those are scriptures: rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn, and then give you space to write. Kind of, you can talk, write about that or something else. And then I will do one that is kind of my thoughts about a topic. I'm trying to find one now here. Yeah. Joy becomes an ever-increasing treasure when it's shared with others. And that's written by me. So I write all through here. I have alternating scriptures or a quote by someone or by me. So
fantastic. I actually put a lot of quotes in the journals, the totally blank journals that I have kept, because I'll be reading a book or hearing a speaker and they inspire me. I want to save that quote for later. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's a great thing to have already in your journal. It just keeps you wanting to go back and pick up that paper friend. Hey, Cheryl.
I was going to say, look who's here.
I know, I love it. All right, so does anything go into a journal? Just everything? Well, not really. Some things are counterproductive. So if you read Ecclesiastes, you'll notice Solomon stayed in kind of a disgruntled place for a long time. His observations are very helpful to us, but there's a big difference between Ecclesiastes and the Psalms. Now, David, who was called a man after God's heart, he expressed frustration and even asked God to smite his enemies. He always ended by letting God know, you're in charge. I trust you and praise you. Solomon, who obsessed with the futility of everything, ended up leaving God behind for other women and for idols. So we do need to, no matter how we're feeling, no matter how much we vent, it's helpful to bring those entries back around so that we're looking God in the face and letting God not our fears or depression or frustrations, be our central focus. Putting God at the center means noticing those blessings, writing that thank you, trusting His guidance. It also means not fantasizing about spiritual poison. The journal feels so safe sometimes. We can let ourselves go a little much. And we've seen over the last, 10 or 20 years where people have fantasized about murder. And we've probably known people who fantasized about adultery in their journals. Well, those things are poisonous to our spirits. It's a good place for private thoughts to put them in your journal, to put your thoughts in your journal. But you've probably heard the saying, what you think about, you talk about, and what you talk about, you bring about. Even if you never murder anyone, nurturing those kinds of fantasies changes how we are, and it poisons our lives. So instead, in the journal, nurture wisdom, good relationships, and creativity. So the next thing I want to talk about is nurturing the life you actually want. So we've been talking about saving happy memories and gratitude, basically attitude adjustment through journaling, right? Coping with things and helping our relationships and our attitude to be better. And logging our accomplishments to keep us motivated. We've talked about venting for mental health. And if all you did were all of those things, especially fun little stories like the googly eye guy, then you'd leave behind a pretty interesting life story. I love reading old journals. I'm like Cindy Lou. When there's someone special to me, I can't wait to get a hands on their journal. I'm reading the Lewis and Clark journal right now. Lewis and Clark are the ones who traveled across the United States back before anybody knew really what was out there. And their journals record plants and animals and people that the English settlers hadn't seen before. Plus, they put maps and coordinates in their journals that would help them find their way to places they want to revisit. Well, every year I draw a picture in my journal that is kind of like a map or coordinate. It goes with my word of the year. So it's just a reference point for my journey for the year. And so this year, story is my word, because more and more I realize how much I love helping people look at their stories and find where God was in those times and share those stories with others so that others can be inspired and healed through that. So, story is right here in my journal. And in my journals, plans and ideas start to incubate. In the 2016 journals, you'll find my plans for a small group study material that goes with the first devotional in my series, Wisdom Better Than Wishing. In 2017 are the plans for the Share Your Wisdom Wisely experience, which is my course to help other people write their own devotional book and promote and publish all those things that first-time writers don't know. In 2018, my journals are full of the ideas for Option Ocean, and that was done with the help of Cindy Lou. In all my journals, there are these half-baked beginnings or dreams for someday when I have more time or for my next project. So, in the front of this one journal is the daily schedule I dream of having someday when I'm doing One Moment Wiser full time. And in the front of another, I don't know if you can see this, it has this awesome pocket. I love pockets in journals. Is a magazine advertisement. I had a dream about a mansion, and I wrote the dream down because I woke up thinking of this wonderful retreat center for authors and artists and writers and musicians. About a month later, maybe two, I sat at a table outside of a gelato restaurant with a friend of mine and picked up a magazine that was in the little thing by the door. And I'm flipping through the magazine as we talked, and the house from my dream was in the magazine. It even has the theater I dreamed about. I was blown away. So that came home with me and has stayed in that journal. And the more I learn about dreams and the more I learn about myself, the more meaningful that picture becomes. Lewis and Clark went through Cassandra's town?
Yeah.
That is so neat. Man, I would love to just follow their hike
I know,
someday.
isn't that fun? I'm like, I'm dreaming about like what it would have been like to be through that town when they went through, and then what it was like when Cassandra was like, that the changes that would have happened. And wow.
For real. That's one of the neatest things about logging stuff like this is that you can see where your life or your world was 20 years ago. You can see what life was like in a former time and maybe what you were like in a former time. And now, today, as you write your newer journal entries and look back on that, you can see how things have changed. Oh, how cool.
Give yourself
So,
hope along with others. That is
yeah, absolutely. And
the same.
have you ever felt like you were the only one who'd ever gone through something?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
No, that's all right. I came back on actually because I wanted to say how important having a single word rather than doing, I do a vision board too.
Mhm.
I do mine electronically because I'm an electronic gal and I love electronics. So, or I love I paint graphics on the computer. Like I do computer painting in Photoshop and things like that. And I haven't really shared that with the world, but that could be kind of fun to start doing that. Start doing computer painting live. I might do that. What a great
Wow.
idea. I love how things come out in these conversations that I have online. It's just amazing. Like I never thought about doing that before. Like, cool.
I love Be Live's new screen sharing tool because you could totally do that.
Yeah, totally could do that. But my word for the year is simplicity. And every time I go to do something, I just say, how does this fit in simplicity? What would this look like in the attitude of simplicity? And I'm changing my behaviors based on just having that thought in my head.
Mm.
So I love the idea of drawing out a picture to go with my word. So thank you for that idea. I'm going to definitely do that.
Beautifully. Well, when you draw something, you have to take more time with it. So you can't just, even when you draw it graphically, you have to take time with it. And when you have that one word that you're taking an hour or more with, it just gets in a little deeper.
Yeah.
And plus, it's really neat to look at a journal full of words and run across something that just makes your heart go, oh, flutter.
Yeah. And story is like journaling is the precursor to story, isn't it? I mean, you're getting those ideas
Absolutely.
down. Next month in the membership, we're going to have a training on story. So it's just fits so well with what you're sharing today that I had to like at least mention it. It's like, yeah, the beginning of February, we're going to do, it's in a couple weeks, a training on story with Corinne Olson. So people can keep their eye out for that. And yeah,
How cool. Oh, I
yeah.
can't wait for that one.
All right, I'll let you go back to your teaching.
I love it. Even if you're not artistic, there are things that you can do to make your journal more of an expression of you and also to make it more of a kind of that Swiss Army knife for times when you feel dry and you need creativity and you look back through those old journals. A couple of things that you can do is just write upside down once in a while. In the back of one of my journals, I wrote upside down. It says, I am writing this upside down because it feels so different than my safe life patterns. It feels like my life might be turned upside down. And I proceeded to write the purpose for One Moment Wiser. In another journal, I gave this journal right here to a friend of mine who had had a little bit of a breakdown in college. And she later, a year later, gave it back to me when I was going through a divorce. Well, she didn't write in it because her mind was just too full. And so instead, she expressed herself in this journal by pasting pictures, things that expressed what she was feeling or things that made her feel creative and light again. And when I was writing in the journal later, it was so inspirational to have little pictures just at, on different pages. So it was a real blessing to have that decorated journal. It inspired me. So just because, if you're not somebody who likes to draw, find other ways to show that creativity. Oh, Cassandra says, victory is your word. Oh, I love that word. Having a victorious mindset, overcoming objections and obstacles this year. I am victorious now, not later when a situation arises, but now. That's right. And we have these words that keep us inspired. Revisit those words in your journal, realign yourself, find the places in your dreams, in your experiences, in the things you've noticed that you've been writing into your journal. Find the places that remind you of that word that is inspiring you this year. So these kinds of things keep me motivated. It sounds like they might keep you motivated too and keep you moving forward. Getting those memories, the happy ones as well as the tough ones, getting those gratitude moments, those word for the year, the accomplishments for each day, they keep us going forward. But, and here's, I think, what you've probably been waiting for, the juiciest journals are packed with vitamin C, which stands for creativity. So we've talked a little bit about drawing your pictures or pasting pictures. When I just want to play around, my journal is not just my shoulder to lean on, but it's my buddy. I use my journal to write poems, draw pictures. I store Bible verses from my daily devotions or quotes from books that I read. Sometimes when I'm in a restaurant and I hear an interesting conversation, I might even write a line or two from that conversation because I can use that in developing characters later. I draw pictures, little caricatures. I'm terrible at drawing, but little caricatures of people I meet so that I remember their names later. So different things that I put in my journal help to feed scenes in stories or devotions or presentations that I want to share later. So there's this one from Car Talk on NPR that I heard one day. And it says, on Stump the Chumps, someone called with red goo oozing from under the dashboard. It dripped onto the carpet and onto the driver's socks while she drove. Was her car bleeding? Well, apparently, transmission fluid was creeping up the speedometer cable. They told her to replace the speedometer gasket to stop the drip. Red goo? A bleeding car? Never in a million years would I have come up with that. But now I can use it in my writing. Oh, Cassandra, you're so sweet. You're going to make me cry. But things like that you wouldn't have come up with, but you've heard or seen can inform your output later, can make your business better, can make your creativity better. Gosh, it can just be a great joke to share with somebody you know. So I want to issue another challenge in the comments. Actually, no, I'm sorry. This is not one that you'll put in the comments, although you're welcome to comment. I love what I've read so far. But today, for the rest of the day, wherever you go, or whatever you watch or listen to, I want you to look for some interesting thing you wouldn't have thought of. Make a note about it. So maybe you see the, plant store advertisement. I saw one time, spring is here. We're so excited. We wet our plants. I had to write that into my journal, and I ended up using that in a cartoon I created for a presentation I did. So, something like that. Look for something you wouldn't otherwise have come up with yourself. Make a note of it in your journal. I don't always carry a paper journal with me, so I use Evernote on my phone to jot things down and keep them in sections. So I have folders for the different books that I'm collecting ideas for. I have a folder with my husband's Subway order in it, different things. But Evernote makes it real easy. I don't make any money by telling you about Evernote, but it's just such a great tool that I thought I'd share. When I get home, I just turn on my laptop and sync it, and I have all those folders and notes right there. So Evernote, or email yourself, leave yourself a voice memo, or write it down in your journal. Songs have been written on napkins from cafes, right? So your journal is your pantry for all those ingredients for whatever you might cook up later. Save those ingredients. Now, I can't leave you just thinking about how to keep your mental health and your creativity going in your journal if I don't also talk to you about the most important way that I use my journal. So I am constantly in motion. I have a list of things to do that makes me glad I'm eternal. So my relationship with God requires that I slow down sometimes and focus. That's the most lasting, most important part of my life. But it's really tough to focus on when I'm running or exhausted or looking around at the things to do. So I use my journal to pray. I just write my prayers. Chaotic thoughts, remember, they have to calm down when they go single file out the tip of your pen. And if I start praying to God, I'm not going to be thinking grocery list if I'm writing my prayer. Even when I'm not anxious, I still get distracted, right? So this helps me stay focused more easily. And when I'm done, I feel more refreshed. I feel like I've really had time with God. There's a book, a devotional that I'm reading right now called Jesus Calling. And Sarah Young actually used that prayer time with God, turning it into writing to not only write what she was thinking, but to try to listen to what God was thinking. And I'm so grateful. This is the second or third time that I've read parts of this book, and they're such a blessing to my life, always right on time. So that focus time is it's probably the most um, just important things that I use my journal for. And now, prayer isn't just about listing your needs or fussing about, the work or the people in your life. So prayer is supposed to be a conversation, like Sarah Young has demonstrated. So in the PDF with the exercises, there's actually a section on journaling your prayers. So in that section, it talks about ways that you can make your prayer a real conversation. Make that connection. It says, write thanks for things God has done, love for who God is, apologies for things you did wrong. Share what's on your mind, write your desires and dreams, and then ask questions about God's desires and dreams. Write prayers for yourself and for others, scriptures that you read, and write questions about what doesn't make sense to you. Write your actual overnight dreams and ask God for clarity to help you understand. And then listen throughout the day. Observe, see where God gives you the answers to those prayers. So, journaling for mental health, for focus, for communication with God, and also to kind of hone your words before you talk to others, and for creativity. All those little ideas and quotes and different things that come to you throughout your day. Doing your journal this way, just making it really work for you, is actually going to have a huge impact in your ability to think clearly and be productive and stay on track, but also see how far you've come. just like the Lewis and Clark journals. We can see how different things were then than they are now. And hopefully in your life, you'll see how they've improved. And that is what I wanted to talk to you about today. What questions do you have? Cindy Lou, do you have any comments on that?
What am I commenting on?
That's all right. I was just going to say, do you have any questions or comments or anything that you want
You
to
have
add?
definitely covered journaling very well. And I was realizing that my journaling has really shifted to the notes section of my computer and my phone. Like I'll be out and I get an idea or whatever, and I'm like, yep, that notes section, it's like it's massive. So I'm gonna be picking up my mom's like journals, right? And but
Mm-hmm.
my kids are gonna have to be savvy enough to know how to get into my computer and get my notes. So I'm realizing that for a lot of people, if that's the only way that they're really journaling right now, they're doing it all electronically, how are we going to pass that on to the next generation? And are we going to face possibly losing a whole bunch of ideas? I think of Leonardo da Vinci's notebook and how many of those things have actually happened well after he was gone, where people have taken what he started, what he wrote down in those books and those journals, and they've taken his ideas and then they've put meat to them. And that isn't going to happen if it's in the notes file and no one ever sees it because your computer's gone.
That's true. And how many different files, can one person have? I mean, I have things in so many places, and I'm realizing more and more, um, like we mentioned, just the psychological benefit of handwriting my journal.
Mm.
And I'm also, like you were just talking about, realizing more and more how scattered my journals are. Now, I like digital because I like being able to search for things and copy them and use them. But when they're not in an easy to get to orderly place, then that is also difficult and things get lost. And gosh, does my husband even know the PIN number for my computer so that he could get it and access those things? So
Yeah.
those are definitely things to consider because you do want to pass on what God has taught you in ways that other people can really go, oh, it's not just me. Yesterday I learned in a dream interpretation class that it was a really fun class, but the dream that drives me crazy and embarrasses me even when I wake up is a dream that everybody has. Knowing it's not just me and here's how this person coped with it is super important. So yeah, let's make them accessible.
Yeah. One of the reasons I really wanted to start writing books was to pass along my thoughts and my perspective, because one of the things that I have realized, and I definitely want to write a book on this, is the uniqueness of everyone's perspective, and that no two people have the same thing to share. That even if you're sharing the exact same event, your experience and what you felt, saw, and took part in is going to be different, and it's going to come across differently because of your perspective and all that you have in your mind. And the only way to pass that on is really to put it into a book and get it out there. Or these videos will also probably be part of that, won't they? Like people
Mm-hmm.
will be able to watch this 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, and we might not be here in 50 years. I'll be 108. I might not be here. So, it could be very interesting to have our voice still be being heard.
I agree. And Cassandra, what type of digital journal do you like? Now, I talked about using Evernote. I've also used Diarium, which is a really neat, online and phone journal that also syncs. I like Evernote a little better for some of my, because I'm working on several books. But what do you like for a digital journal?
Yeah,
Cassandra.
there's quite a delay. So,
Yep, that is totally okay. But I love that Cassandra's talking about writing dreams. I have so many wonky dreams, and looking back over them to get ready for the class I went to yesterday was kind of fun. I'd forgotten some of them, but there was some definite signs of what was going on in my mind and in my life at the time. You've used Evernote also. Fantastic.
when did you start journaling? Have you journaled all your life?
I think I was probably 7 or 8, when someone gave me a diary and it had a little lock on it that, of course, when you're 7 or 8, you think is impenetrable, right? Uh, and I used that for a really short time, but I really didn't have anything. I had the thought that you have to write every day. I didn't have anything to say every day. When I was probably 13, I started really writing more of my life, being a little freer with it. And actually, it's funny, I took French in ninth grade, and then I moved to Texas in a school that they didn't have French. And so the whole year that I lived in Texas, I practiced French by journaling in French, in my little ninth grade
Wow.
French, and using my little French book to try to get better. And I was actually able to skip second year French in 11th grade and just move on to third year French. So that must have been a good thing, I guess. I threw away my high school journals, and I'm so sad about that because my dad had read them. Well, logical grown up me says, well, that's silly. He'd already read them. But, I never forget one day I just angrily tossed them all in the dumpster.
Oh no. So
Yeah.
I would love to I love to write. This is Desiree. I love to write and used to a lot. But I started feeling stupid as though I had a high ego, thinking people would actually be interested in what I had to say or in the weird and wonderful way my brain functioned.
Desiree, people are interested in what you have to say, period. Just watch TV for 5 minutes and then turn it off. But people watch the dumbest reality shows because we have a hunger for real life. We have a hunger for other people's stories. They affect us. I had several step parents, and the things that my parents, who actually loved me, would tell me, I didn't always accept. But when a step parent would say something, I would hear it from their perspective. It was like all of a sudden I listened and I heard what my mom had been trying to say. So your voice matters. You have a way of expressing
Oh, and
what
she does.
you've gone through that
Desi has
someone
an
else.
amazing way of
Yeah,
expressing. Like this woman,
awesome.
she is gifted with the right.
So yes, please write. Please write.
Desi, you can't write too much. It's impossible. And I know right now it might be difficult, but a little bit. And that's the thing about journaling too, is you don't have to have a long time. Like you can do 2 minutes, you can do a minute, you can do a 5 minute one like you started at the beginning with. You
Mhm.
don't have to sit down for an hour or 2 hours or whatever. But you can do what you can do and do what you can.
Absolutely. And I have a friend who she doesn't want to be a journaler, but she keeps a calendar. On her calendar that hangs in her kitchen, she'll just write a little note about something that happened each day. And for her, she can look back and see, oh, it was on this day. For some reason, every year, the day that my grandma passed away, she'll send me a little note. Hey, I'm just thinking about you and how sweet your grandma was. So she's written different things that have happened in her life, good things too, that she can look back on and remember and share the story.
Yeah,
And
I'll
Cheryl,
never.
you don't remember your dreams. My husband doesn't either. And you know, certain things like waking without an alarm clock can help, and even just trying, what was it that I did in my sleep, can help. But you have a lot of I just love your podcast. You have so much that you remember in your waking that is very helpful for people.
Yes, we're all three podcasters. Cassandra, do you have a podcast or do you only have the online TV show? Cassandra does a online live like we are doing here. Yeah, she does. I don't know if she has a
Awesome.
podcast. I think she wants to have one. But Cheryl and myself and you all have a podcast, and I think we all started ours around the same time, maybe the same weekend.
Yes,
We
thanks to Young
podcasted a
Pratt,
weekend with our friend Young.
who is amazing.
Amazing, and currently doing Amplify Your Awesome, which is like helping us to repurpose and do things and get our messages. A lot of things that we might journal about may end up on a blog post or in a book or whatever. And then we're then sharing it online. And so Young helps you with that and takes you through all that process. I don't know why I'm talking. Hi, Young. Thank you for helping us to bring our dreams to fruit, because I had wanted to have a podcast for like 8 years before I finally got that done. And yeah, I'm so excited. For those who are listening that are my podcast listeners, because I'm definitely going to put this on the podcast, if that's all right with you, Miss Christy.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And if you want a journal, just put journal in the comments and we'll get that back to you, or send us a message. Send one to me, send one to Christy. It doesn't matter which one of us you send it to, because she sent me the PDF so I can make sure and get it to you. Yeah. Do you have last thing that you'd love to like just share?
It's just been so wonderful to be a part of your training programs, because you offer terrific things to your members, and I just really appreciate what you do. So thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thanks. And the membership is now open. It's $27 a month. The first month is $7. You can test it out, try it out. This video will live forever in the membership portal area. So if you're in the membership, you'll have access to this replay forever. I don't know how long I'll keep it up on Facebook. It may be here forever too. I don't know. But for sure, it's going to be put into that portal so that you can go back. And even if it's on Facebook, sometimes it's hard to find stuff. So I'm going to put all the trainings. They're going to go right into the membership. You're going to be able to log right in, and you can go in and find Christy's name and then look it up, or journaling. And you'll be able to find it really easy. Christy, I didn't ask you this ahead of time, and I probably should have. Would you come back in like a week or two and just do a Q&A in the membership group only?
Yes.
So if anyone has any questions, like they've been journaling or whatever, we can just have that as a private Q&A.
I would be happy to. And anything else that you guys want me to share, examples of, or how-tos, or any other ideas, just let me know.
That would be awesome. All right. I will put it in the membership. I will put the membership link here for people to join. I will put Christy's contact information here so that you can connect with her. And I think we'll see you in a couple of weeks when we do this. When talking to my listeners too, as much as the next training will be February 3rd, 4th, 5th, somewhere in there. It's really hard with the dates because it's the 23rd here, the 22nd where you are, and but it'll be there. I will announce it in the group and you will get to join in. Anything else I need to say? I don't think so. So one more googly eyes out. Remember to always live your life out loud and be bold you.
Yes.
Thank you again, Christy.
Thanks.